Welcome to SoulSync Mode. Here we explore consciousness, technology, spirituality, history, and the ideas shaping our world. These essays are works in progress, and so are we. As we sift through the noise in search of deeper understanding, your feedback, insights, and questions help guide the journey. Join the conversation and become part of the movement at soulsyncmode.com. We're just getting started, and I look forward to hearing from you.
I want to start with some actual good news. The world isn't ending. An old, top-heavy system is ending. And the blueprints we need to build the next one are already finished. The people at the very top already know this. The most successful investor in history is currently sitting on nearly $400 billion in cash and treasury bills. He has spent years quietly moving toward the exit door. Central banks are following a similar pattern. They are hoarding gold at the most aggressive pace since the 1960s. The same institutions that print paper currency are converting that paper into the one asset that survives a systemic collapse. Tech billionaires are physically preparing for a break in the system. Mark Zuckerberg is building a 1,400-acre compound in Hawaii, featuring a 5,000 square foot underground shelter behind a blast-resistant door.
According to these men, the future has never been brighter. But if you watch their hands instead of their mouths, the message is clear. When the people who built the system start quietly preparing their escape routes, it's probably time to pay attention.
If you have felt gaslit by official narratives, let me validate your instincts. You watched the stories change mid-sentence. You weren't crazy. You were paying attention. But there is a second trap. Obsessing over corruption is just another track on their playlist. The machine doesn't care if you believe the news or rage against it, as long as you keep watching. Outrage is a form of consumption. Doom scrolling hands over your one precious life to them for free.
Being right about the problem is not the same as being free of it. I know people who can explain every layer of the corruption, myself included, but they haven't planted a garden or learned a skill in years. They have simply found a more sophisticated cage. True freedom starts when you take your eyes off their lies and shift your energy toward building the replacement. I grew up between Venezuela, Trinidad, and America. My family was a war zone of identities. Politics, religion, and race sat at one dinner table, and I watched how labels tear people apart before I was 12 years old. The defining lesson came when armed men forced their way into our home in Trinidad and held my family at knife point. I lived the sheer helplessness of being too small to protect the people I loved. Right after that robbery, the police raided the same house. The system that was supposed to provide safety showed up as a second invasion. When both the criminals and the cavalry let you down, you stopped waiting for an official rescue. I refused to stay helpless. I joined the United States National Guard to learn discipline and service, training to function in high-stress, high-accountability environments. I spent a decade as a self-taught engineer, repairing massive technical infrastructure with my own hands. I learned on the fly because I knew nobody was coming to save the day. This specific antidote to systemic failure isn't seeking power over others. The opposite of helplessness is capability. Civilization is trapped in a repeating loop of crisis, but alternative blueprints already exist. From permaculture farms to community energy grids, building them requires an inner blueprint too. Shadow work. Facing the parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. Warning tone. Without this inner work, the project fails.
Wounded people recreate wounded systems, regardless of how good the technical plans are. We are not waiting for an invention. The societal and psychological tools sit fully stocked on the shelf, waiting for capable builders to pick them up.
Cynics say that human beings are too selfish to cooperate at scale without a central authority. However, the foundational backbone of the internet already runs on open source code built and maintained by unpaid strangers across every border. It works so well that the biggest corporations on earth depend on it to survive. This global network has proved that we don't need a pyramid, we need a nervous system. The architecture of a functional society looks like the human biological body, trillions of cells performing their own work, without a central committee approving every heartbeat. In this model, artificial intelligence acts as a central nervous system. It steps in for speed and safety during an emergency, but hands power back to the individual nodes the moment the crisis passes. This biological coordination is the same mechanism that manages the cells in your own body. It is the most successful operating system in history. You don't need to fight or demolish the old system. Dying structures fall on their own. Our job is to build the replacement next door. When the new wave visibly functions, with happier people and stronger communities, power will follow what works. The first brick of this build is your commitment to your own healing and skill development. One rebuilt human is worth more to the future than 1,000 angry comments. We were never stuck. We were just looping. You can end the loop starting today. Heal up, skill up, show up, and start building the future. A loop only has power until one person decides to do something completely different. Part 2. By the end of this video, you'll have a 4-step foundation for rebuilding your personal direction, your own internal structure in a world that pulls you in every direction. To follow this, you only need 4 things: a blank notebook, a pen, a laptop, and the willingness to look at your life without distortion. Because the system you're living inside doesn't just run on money or policy, it runs on attention, emotion, and reaction. When you're stuck in cycles of fear, distraction, and constant noise, you don't just lose focus, you become part of the current that keeps everything moving. And you might ask, what does that actually mean? It means your emotional state isn't separate from the system. It's part of what drives it. At scale, emotion becomes behavior. Behavior becomes markets. And markets become direction. So in a very real sense, your inner world is already participating in the outer one. That's why the first real act of independence isn't external. It's not escape. It's interruption. Breaking the loop inside yourself so you're no longer being carried unconsciously by it. That's where everything starts. Step 1 is diagnosis. Most people don't see their own pattern clearly, they just repeat it. So the first move is naming it. Go to SoulSyncMode.com. There's a short 2-minute assessment designed to identify the pattern you keep falling into. It gives your behavior a structure you can actually see. From there, copy your personalized prompt and run it through an AI tool like ChatGPT or Claude. Think of it as a mirror, not an answer. Don't get lost in the output. Extract what's useful, then close the machine. Because naming the pattern weakens it. What was once vague becomes specific. What was emotional becomes workable. Step 2 is grounding the body. You don't break mental loops with more thinking. You interrupt them physically. Choose one simple anchor. A walk without your phone, controlled breathing, or a consistent physical reset before you start work. This is about shifting control from reaction to intention. Step 3 is radical clarity at home. Take your notebook and map your reality. Income, expenses, debt, obligations, everything on paper. If you share a household, do it together. Not as emotion, but as structure. Avoidance creates pressure. Clarity creates movement. A shared truth turns confusion into coordination. Step 4 is the daily build. At the bottom of your page, write one sentence. What you are building toward. Then remove 1 hour of passive consumption today and replace it with something real, something physical, something you build, fix, or create. Because every hour of pure consumption is attention given away. Every hour of creation is attention returned to you. That shift changes identity from observer to builder. You now have a structure, a pattern named, a body anchored, a reality mapped, and a daily build in motion. This doesn't stop the world from moving, but it stops you from being unconsciously dragged by it. So your first move is simple: log off, complete your 1 hour of building, and if you choose, share your insight in the comments. Then join us at SoulSyncMode.com. Be part of the conversation as this system continues to evolve. Stay tuned. I'll see you in the next one.